Hello and welcome to the final game from our match against saltroza that has cards from the new Dominion expansion, Dominion Plunder. Let's look at the new cards that we have. We saw Frigate already. Let's start off with this trait, Friendly. At the start of your cleanup phase, you may discard a friendly card to gain a friendly card. In this kingdom, the friendly cards are the Grottos. The Grotto is also from Dominion Plunder, and the display should come up for it soon here. Nope, I forgot to show you the big card of Grotto. There's Frigate. We saw that before. We'll see another exciting game with Frigate here. See how anti-engine it is. There's Grotto. You see the friendly trait next to it. Plus action. Set aside up to 4 cards from your hand face down on this. At the start of your next turn, discard them, then draw as many. Cost 2. Little bit like Seller, you can only set aside up to 4. Though Seller can discard as many cards as you like, or as many cards as you have in your hand, and then you would draw that much. Useful, and it's easy to gain because it's friendly. I do misunderstand this card at some point during this game. I'll point it out. These are the new cards that we have to play with. Now, back to the rest of the kingdom. We have knights on the kingdom. We have storyteller to draw. Royal galley is the throne room. There's ample draw here with storyteller and galley, and you have nice treasures, useful treasures in the idol, which can curse. There's no trashing. There is only one source of trashing, which is in the knights pile. Who knows where Anna is? There's contract with the League of Shopkeepers. That is a good liaison. Sorry, a good ally to have, the League of Shopkeepers. If you get enough favors, those contracts will start to give you an extra coin, start to give you plus buy, start to give you action, which you can put into play with the storyteller. It looks like a big storyteller kingdom. However, there is this new card, the Frigate. You draw big with storyteller. Frigate will tell you after you've drawn all those cards, lovely cards, discard down to 4, please, and thank you. New interaction. Let's see how it plays out. Does this mean that we cannot build a big storyteller deck? Let's find out. The idea with the Frigate is you want to have it in play every turn. That is the only way it is an anti-engine card. However, the only way to have it in play every turn is to have some kind of engine deck yourself. Let's have a look. I open with silver. Wasn't really sure what to open with. I tried to get to 5 as quickly as possible here. For me, that looks like silver and silver, or silver and innkeeper. Anvil is useful to gain galleys, to gain innkeepers. Not yet, I said. I wanted the 5 because storyteller, as we mentioned, is key. Contract is reasonable, idol is reasonable, frigate not so much early. The knight, the top knight, militia knight, that's a good knight, especially against storyteller decks. That was my idea. Prioritize 5. I could get the anvil later. I'm not overly concerned. Now, let's see what saltroza's open is. I am going to open with silver and innkeeper as opposed to silver and silver. The innkeeper can function as a warehouse, and that is a known opening coming out of a seaside warehouse, and silver is decent at getting you to 5. Also, later in the game with the big draw from the storyteller, the innkeeper can help cycle through some of the junk that you would draw. Now, saltroza opens 5-2. They get a frigate on the 5. They had their choice of knight, treasure, storyteller. They opt for the frigate first. I said, okay. They'll probably pair that with a grotto. Open in all plunder. I love it. Here's the innkeeper for me, Grotto for them. I pick up another silver on 3 there. There's not much else to do. I wasn't really happy about that. However, it's a storyteller game, so maybe it's not that bad. I said I wasn't happy. I could have picked up an anvil like saltroza did here. I chose the silver instead to help me get to 5 more often. If I get 3 again, then I'll get the anvil, probably. Okay. Innkeeper functions like a warehouse. Draw 3, discard 3. Our first 5 is going to be the militia knight. Unfortunately, we reveal a decent... That's not a decent. That's a good knight. That's one of the better knights. Bailey below it. So saltroza will have an opportunity to get that knight. Here's the Grotto and the Frigate. They probably have enough money to get Sir Bailey then. Frigate comes with 3 coin on it. The question is if they will take it or if they're interested in another 5 cost at this point. In the end, they do choose to take Bailey, and fortunately, below Bailey was the only 4 cost knight in the pile, and I quickly scoop up that knight. I think we have to work through the knights before we see what kind of deck we could build, whether it involves storytellers or frigates or what. Bailey comes out, skips past a couple coppers for me. Saltroza will use the anvil to gain a galley. I would like to be gaining galleys too. They also get a second Grotto. Alright, not a problem. Go ahead, cycle through the deck, get up to 5 again. I opt to not play Martin there because I think getting to 5 is more important. Could be a contract. I'm hovering over it. Could be another knight. I do choose another knight because Destry is a good knight. Vanda, on the other hand, no, this is bottom of the barrel knight. It doesn't do anything for you. Only when it trashes itself you get a gold. It's not very exciting. Destry draws 2 cards. That's much more constructive than Vanda. Now, I have 3 knights to Saltroza's 1. That means if they want to keep fighting with the knights, they will have to get Vanda, which is not that great of a knight. What is below Vanda might be better, and then I'll have first stab at that. We're doing well with the knights at this point, I feel. Over to Saltroza, they go ahead. They get an innkeeper. I land militia knight. Not up to 5 here. Could get galley or anvil. Militia knight finds Bailey and they get trashed. I go for the anvil instead of the galley because they are knights floating around. Gainers are good. They could offset some of the damage done by the knights. Now I'll start to gain galleys after that, especially after I lost militia knight. I wasn't confident that the galley would find targets easily in my deck, so I went with the anvil instead. Here's the Grotto. They set aside 1 card, I believe. Galley comes out, doesn't connect with anything, unfortunately. We get to 5, could be storyteller, maybe should be storyteller, but I get the contract. That feels wrong, especially in retrospect. Maybe that should have been a storyteller, honestly. With the anvil that I have, with the knight advantage that I have, really, that should have been storyteller. However, I thought at the time I should get a move on with gaining favors to make those contracts into super contracts. Oh well, mistakes are made sometimes. Another Grotto for Saltroza, and here comes the Frigate, and it will actually hurt this hand because Destry will draw up. We are forced to discard 2. Fortunately, it's 2 estates, and we hit one of their royal galleys. We get up to 5 here. We could also get a pair of galleys if we like. And I do choose that option. I get 1 galley and a second galley. I could have picked up a 5. Could have been a storyteller again there. But we went for the galleys instead. Maybe one day I'll get a storyteller, you know? Maybe. Hopefully. Who knows? It's too early to tell. Sarcasm, obviously. Innkeeper for saltroza. Works well with the grotto. Works well with the grotto. You get the big hand size from the grotto on the previous turn. And they get a silver and another galley. We trash that silver out from their deck. This is going to be another innkeeper and a grotto at this point. We buy the grotto because we have to. Is the new card, right? I can't have saltroza showing off grotto alone. I also would like to use grotto, get used to it. saltroza is able to have a good turn here. They set aside their storyteller with the royal galley, which means it'll be in play next turn, and they put down their frigate, which is going to hurt me here after playing this knight off the galley, after playing Destry here. Forced to discard the innkeeper. We don't even get to 4 here, which is very sad. So I go ahead and I buy another silver. We need to get to 5. We need to get storytellers. We need to get frigates. saltroza has a contract now. They will be racking up the favors as well. We need to get our move on. We are a bit behind on the 5s. That's not true. The 5s that we have are the knights. And at this point, I think you'll notice that saltroza hasn't bought a knight. And in fact, for the rest of the game, they don't buy any of the knights. And that decision confused me. You've seen Destry and Martin rip a couple holes in saltroza's deck so far. Silver's gone down, a couple galleys have now gone down. Playing against 2 knights, playing a long game against 2 knights is not sustainable. I think you have to contest the knights in order to stay in this game. Ultimately, the knights do give me enough time and advantage to catch up on the 5 costs that I didn't have. We start with the storyteller on my last turn there. Frigate comes down for me. This hand, though, isn't going to be so much affected by the frigate. We'll see. This innkeeper, I'll use it as a warehouse, so that'll dock below the frigate line. Silver. No, a frigate and a royal galley for saltroza. So they are trying to establish the lock here. The frigate lock. So here, first mistake with Grotto. I thought it was a knight, so I could play it after Sir Martin, because it looks kind of spooky, the art. That's not right. I should have set aside the anvil and the estate on it, so next turn I could have a little bit of a bigger hand size. That goes to waste here, unfortunately. We, however, kind of make it look like we meant to do that. We use the friendly trait to gain a second grotto. Probably don't want more grottos than that. Alright. Let's see what saltroza is setting up. They have a storyteller. They have a pair of frigates. I assume they'll try to establish the lock. Not quite yet, though. They do set aside a galley on their contract. Next turn looks promising for them. While we are not under the influence of the frigate, I will go big with this hand size here. We get through most of the deck here. Most of the deck. Critically, we get to another 5. See what's happening? Look at these uncomfortable decisions saltroza has to make because of these knights. Do you want to lose the anvil or the storyteller? They lose the storyteller. They want the anvil to keep gaining galleys. The gaining is important against knights. They understand that. However, also equally important is to fight knights with knights. We get our first frigate here. Again, you can make an argument for another storyteller. I think we only have the one. Not entirely sure. Saltroza gets their storyteller down on the galley. Good, because it gives them a good start to next turn, and it hides the storyteller from the knights. Storyteller can hide away there for a turn. Frigate comes down. We have to be wary of that. We have our innkeeper set aside. They gain an idol. So they have two idols now. Curses are going to start to come in. This is going to get a little uncomfortable, but we discard down, dock below the frigate line. We have the storyteller in hand though. So what do? Well, I said, you know what? Forget frigate. We're just going to play the storyteller anyway and find our good action cards set up for the next turn. They don't exactly have us locked with the frigate yet. Maybe we could have a better turn next turn. That involves putting some things aside on the Royal Galley. We get this tree aside there. That should be good enough. That should be good enough. Continue punching holes in their deck with the knights, by the way. We do land, we do get our first curse of these two idols. Big draw from saltroza. Watch what's happening here. Idle, contract. They pick up another frigate because we nicked one of them off with one of our knights. But they have potential. They have potential. They have the extra storyteller. They are starting to land curses. There's no trashing in the kingdom. Those curses are stuck there. It'll just make my life more difficult in terms of drawing through the deck. We are behind. We are behind in terms of the attacks, frigate and idol. But the knights are doing tremendous work for us, slowing down saltroza enough to where I believe we can still catch up. Martin doesn't hit anything here. We finally make an intelligent decision on 5, pick up a storyteller. Once I could start to have a storyteller in play via Royal Galley every turn, I'll feel more comfortable to go after frigates and idols. Hopefully I could set that up now. We'll see. The galleys empty out on saltroza's last turn there. One pile is done. Just have to keep that in mind. Martin flips up an idol and a storyteller. Which one do you want to lose? They opt to lose the idol. Obviously, the storyteller is more valuable. Now they'll have to spend time to replace that if they want to continue junking me. We draw through until the end of the deck here. No frigate attack for us. This is not 5, and I don't really know what to do with this if it's not 5. I decide to just set aside everything for next turn, and hopefully that'll be better for me. Of course it's not better for me because the frigate comes into play. That happens sometimes. A contract as well, which will set aside an innkeeper. Saltroza does pick up an idol here to continue junking. Now, what do we do with this frigate? Well, I use the so-called worst option on the innkeeper. Is the worst option because it cuts your hand size the most, but I want to cut my hand size because I have to do it anyway because of the frigate. So we go for +5, discard 6. We do find most of the good cards from the deck, but we still have to keep this card in here, and that is uncomfortable. We keep the draw in the storyteller and the frigate ourselves. We've seen that saltroza is capable of having some big turns. We want to limit that as much as possible, of course. I do trigger a bad shuffle here. This is bad on me, but I was a little too hungry with trashing with the knights. It does pay off a little bit. We get a couple Royal Galleys out of the deck. Whether it's worth triggering the shuffle or not is debatable. I don't think it is. We could always trash those galleys later. Not a big deal. 7 is going to be our second frigate. Hopefully we can establish that lock soon. So we have the frigate in play now. Saltroza is going to have to stay below that 4-card limit. They do so. Able to set up a storyteller for the next turn. Pick up a silver, pass it back to me. I know the rest of the cards in the deck are junk. Here's where I make another mistake with the Grotto. I thought I put the cards into my hand and then I discard. I set aside 3 here, for example, then I discard the worst 3 cards in my next hand. But that's not true. The cards that I set aside go away. That's why I saved the Royal Galley there. I wasn't supposed to do that. New cards, you learn, right? You learn. And learning in a competitive environment is honestly one of the best ways to learn, because you don't forget when you do nonsense in a tournament or a league match. Another curse lands in my deck from Saltroza. They have quite a good turn here and they go for province. I understand why. They are under serious attack from my knights, so they want to make the game as short as possible. Makes sense, I understand. I have to just be wary of the piles here and play accordingly. Again, a second innkeeper and a third storyteller, I believe. That should be enough storytellers for me here. What I want to do now is establish the frigate lock 1 and get a couple idols to start putting curses into their deck. Once I am able to do that, I think I'll be in a position to start scoring. Not overly concerned by Saltroza getting that province there. In fact, I think it's just not helpful for them at all. I will reiterate, this is only possible because of the amount of damage the knights have done. Only possible because of that. We are under the frigate attack here, so we have to be careful how we draw. I set aside Destry, and you see that trick there with the storyteller. Use the storyteller, get the contract and play. The contract can put an action, set aside an action, sorry, so that it comes out of the hand. One less card in the hand means I play around frigate a little bit because of the contract there. In this case, I only have to discard the 1 card because we set aside that innkeeper for the next turn. Also able to set aside a storyteller for the next turn. Very happy about that. Getting the frigate in play. So now we are slowly establishing the lock here. We had one in play last turn. We have one in play this turn. This is going to further limit Saltroza's potential in this game. Especially now that they have the big hand size from the Grotto here. The frigate is going to hurt. The frigate is going to hurt. They choose draw 5, discard 6 on the innkeeper because of the frigate. They'll have just the 4 cards in hand, but probably 4 good cards. Storyteller comes out, plays the idol, draws up, but then you have to discard down. A little bit uncomfortable to play with the frigate, honestly. A little bit uncomfortable. We get our 3rd curse. Contract comes down again for them. Up to 5, up to 9 for province number 2. Could be scary, but I believe we can still manage this points deficit with our deck, especially after we start dropping curses into Saltroza's deck with the idols. Just have to keep calm, pay attention to the piles, and play accordingly. Our knights are doing great work for us. Going to draw up to the end of the shuffle here. Martin is going to keep asking uncomfortable questions. Finally, I figure out how to use the grotto. We set aside all the garbage in the grotto so that next turn it'll get discarded and is out of the deck for this turn. Gain an idol ourselves. We just want, I think, the one more idol, and then we'll start going after points. I am able to regularly put storytellers in the galleys, so I have great starting hands. I'm able to have frigates in play every turn because I have lead storytellers. So I think now is a reasonable time to start going after the green cards. Once I pick up the second idol to start landing curses in their deck. Trash one of the storytellers, we trash another one of the storytellers. Is that right? Yeah, that's just awful, awful, awful for saltroza. And look at where we are now. We're up to 15. We gain our silver as well. I gain the second idol, the land curses. I gain our second contract. We saw that trick with the contract and storyteller to help us play under the frigate line, and the last 5 was spent on a storyteller. We should be good from here to green now. saltroza replaces one of their trashed storytellers. However, I think our deck is in a gear now. Our deck is running smoothly. It was very uncomfortable in the beginning when it was sort of knights against idols and frigates. It wasn't clear who would win that exchange, but the knights have, well, uncontested knights have come out on top. Go for double province here and another silver maybe. No silver this time. saltroza is still in it though. They are able to get up to third province, which is a little bit uncomfortable for me. Little bit uncomfortable for me. We'll have to see what we can do here. We're under the frigate attack here. So really this is just about setting up for the next turn. I think saltroza only has the one frigate because we've been trashing them throughout the course of this game. I don't expect us to be able to do much with this shuffle. Still, we are able to draw through the whole deck, set up a few cards on our galleys, attack with the knights, get the idol in play. We still did a lot, even though we are under the frigate line, under the frigate attack here. I get a little bit squirrely and think about an estate here, but I decide against it. I go for the silver. The estate wasn't helping me do anything. If they could double province, they could double province, you know? The estate doesn't prevent them from winning via double province. We gain another silver instead. I don't think they could double province, especially under the frigate attack. Perhaps me just being too conservative. At this point, our contracts have hit critical mass. We have 10 favors. So contracts are now giving us an extra coin, and an extra buy, and an extra action. Very good news for us. We should be good to win this game here. Points are now level, but my deck is much, much better than saltroza's. Still, they are able to get up to a duchy here. No frigate this time for them. If we have a good shuffle here, we should be able to get up to 16 and 2 buys to be able to finish off the game. However, I get a little bit carried away with these storytellers, and I didn't actually find $16 here. A little bit less, 13 and 2 buys. I don't want to touch the provinces. I really don't want to give saltroza any chance of winning. It's probably safe to gain province duchy in that position, but is definitely safer to gain a couple duchies instead and the silver. In fact, this time I think I do cave to my squirrely feelings and I pick up the estate. No, it's not yet, not yet. Just a silver to help out with these storytellers. We play it extremely safe because we don't have any reason to even give them half a percentage chance extra of winning. That being said, we do have to play through some more frigate attacks while they pick up duchies, staying in the hunt. Staying in the hunt. Notice here, I'll point out, I am trying to play the first idol with the storyteller so that I could cater for whatever variants that boon might show up. Sometimes you draw to the end of your deck neatly, then you play your idol and it triggers a shuffle for you and you just want to cry. To avoid that from happening, I am actively trying to put the first idol into play with the storyteller so that I can recover from any draw or discard or anything like that. Plus, I could see, I can maybe gain a gold or a silver, which might be helpful for the rest of the turn if I have a look at the boon early. We are just, at this point, we're going through the deck, trying to set up as many cards as we can on the galley and to find second idol, the other frigate, all of which we're able to do. We get up to 8. Still not going to touch the provinces, just going to buy a duchy and an estate at this point. I don't want any surprises. Maybe that's wrong. I'm not sure. Playing very conservatively. Still, saltroza is able to get up to 5 for another duchy, staying in the hunt, but at this point, I do see an opportunity to finish the game on double duchy and curse. That is the line that I am going to try to execute here on this, what I hope to be final turn of the game. However, like last turn, I did get carried away with the storytellers. While I am able to draw through the deck, I don't have the buys necessary to empty out 2 duchies and a curse. In fact, I don't even have money for 2 duchies here. I thought I did, but I can't count. So I just have 9. This is a little uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. At this point, the best thing I can do is take a province and hope that saltroza couldn't pile out. 10 points is a lot, especially given that their deck doesn't have that much resources. They're under the frigate line. It's going to be very difficult for them, I believe, if I take the province. Sure enough, they don't do anything on this turn, and getting 8 is trivial with the start from the royal galleys here. That concludes our set of Plunder games from the Dominion League so far. We will showcase more games from Plunder. I have 3 more matches left in the league. Any of those games, any of those 18 games that come up with Plunder, we will put it out on the channel and have a look at it. I'm hoping to see maybe about half the cards from the expansion in this league and have some fun. Donald Lex has done a great job this year with the game. I must give credit and compliments to him. He's curated some of the older sets, made them much more interesting by cutting some of the chaff off, and he's put out a brand new expansion, some neat ideas. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next match with Dominion Plunder.